Hi everyone, it's Ross again, back on the hobby table. Today I'm going to make a dirty pool. So the idea is, this is going to be a difficult piece of terrain for Outlands, or other post-apocalyptic games are available, obviously. They're not so cool as Outlands, obviously. So the idea of this is, I'm going to have a concrete surround. Well, not real concrete, it's going to look like concrete. So what I'm going to use is cork around the outside. Build up several layers of a resin to make it look like it's deep. No, in reality it's going to be a few millimeters. Probably put a barrel or something in the middle, so rules wise a model could leap to the middle and leap off again for Outlands. Take the gamble, you know, or walk the long way around. But basically it's going to be difficult terrain. It will just look cool. And what I'm hoping to do is maybe make a little ladder, like a swimming pool ladder, off the side as well. That's probably going to be with paper clips. So, what I'm going to do for the cork around the outside is expansion strips. So these are already pre-cut. Of course you can have a cork sheet, measure and cut, but I wanted each one to be exactly the same. It's a bit cheaty, but look how many strips you get. So it's 3 deep, and it is 6 across, so 18 pieces. No, I didn't read the label. That was maths, people. Be impressed. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So it's quite long strips. I am cheating. I could just use cork strips. But yeah, it's relatively cheap. I think these set me back £4. Sounds like a lot, but I'm going to use this on a lot of hobby projects. And I am a bit of a hoarder, so that'll be in the shed probably for another 10-12 years, I would imagine, before I actually use them again. Or remember where the hell I put them, which is more likely. So, that's the cork on the edges. Excuse me for coughing. The base is just a piece of MDF, because I'm worried there might be some warpage, if that's even a word, with the resin. So obviously the thicker the base, the less likely it is to warp, but I'm hoping that's quite thick. That's probably about 3mm thick. You could use cardboard, whatever you want, but I am going to be using this stuff. So that's my base. I'm going to cut some cork edges, and I'll be right back. You don't want to hear any rustling packets, so I will do that off camera. Okay, so I have cut my strip to go on one side, cut a strip to go on the other side, and once it's fully dry, measure in between, and cut 2 more strips. So that's how I imagine my pool. I could use tiles like plastic card or something to go on top to make it look more like a poolside, but it's going to be a pretty basic pool, and it's just going to be a quick, hopefully, video on how to make some cheap terrain. So I stuck the 2 pieces down, I measured the gap in between, marked it up. Now I'm cutting this cork as gently as possible, trying to keep it as square as possible. I'm not tearing the cork. Cork's pretty easy to cut anyway. Makes great buildings, especially if you want to make buildings look a bit more like concrete. So I could let this wait a bit longer, put a weight on it, and look at that, it's not bad, is it? Put a weight on top of it, so I know it's all set, all the glue's gone off. Speaking of glue, I think I'm about out. Yep, I'll save you the pain of watching me trying to get every last drop out because I'm tight. And I'll get another bottle. Try again, shall we? Plenty of Superglue in there now, look at that. Watch it squidge out and ruin everything. So cork is fairly absorbent, so Superglue is pretty damn good for it. And get it as flush as I can to the edge. Once it's all gone off, I will sand the edges anyway, just to make sure that everything looks pretty true, because I can see that is slightly proud. Measure before you glue. Yeah, should be fine. Alright, a good squidge of this stuff. Squidge, 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 squidge. Just like so. Right, so I will put a yellow pages, or the equivalent of, on top of it, a nice heavy weight. Make sure it's all gone off. Ready for the next stage. Once the glue is fully dry, make sure it's perfectly sealed, because if we're going to fill this with resin, we don't want any gaps. So therefore, any corner sections, notice the join here, there would have been a small gap. So what I've done is just put a drop of Superglue in. While it's still wet, sand the area because I need it level anyway. And the dust of the cork will adhere to the Superglue and fill in the gap. So I've done the same thing with all four corners. Should be nicely sealed. So the next thing is painting. So we paint this stage. So you pick the colour of your water. If you want a fairly clear pool, obviously just paint the bottom as you see fit. If you want to see the bottom of your swimming pool, then you can use cardboard tiles or plastic card tiles, lay in the bottom, so when it's clear you can see the bottom of the pool. So you could always have something at the bottom of the pool if you wanted to, like a body, whatever. That was a bit dark straight away, wasn't it? Have a body at the bottom of the pool. But if you want to leave something at the bottom of the pool, you can do, and before we put the resin on. But for me, personally, I want to make this mucky, abandoned, post-apocalyptic, like this was in use several years ago before whatever happened to cause the apocalypse. Excuse me. So, I'm going to paint a murky green. I'm going to paint the concrete edges, so the cork edges. Once that's all dry, then I'm going to make my steps, my ladder off the side into the pool, paint that up, attach it. Then I'll probably put a barrel in the centre, so I'll cut a slight angle so it looks like the barrel's bobbing and put in there. Once everything's painted, then add your resin and wait for it to fully cure. So if it says 24 hours, you know, wait a couple of days just to make sure it's fully gone off, especially if you're doing multiple layers to make it look deeper. So to make it look deeper, small layer, wait until it fully goes off, another layer, another layer, another layer, and it will hopefully give the illusion of depth. So the first layer, quite the mucky green, then it gets lighter and lighter as it goes up, hopefully gives me the illusion of depth. So I will pick my colours and paint this bad boy. Okay, so I've got my basic colours down for my pool. What I've tried to do is make the centre darker, and I've painted it a little barrel, as you can see there, that I've sawn half the top off. And what I'm going to do now is make it nice and rusty and beaten, and I'm going to make my pool steps. So just a little bit of character. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, rules wise or anything, I imagine. But I'm going to make some pool steps. So what I'm going to do is find 2 paper clips, preferably ones that are covered in plastic so it's easier to paint, and trim them and stick them to the side, there and there, to make it look like steps of a pool. So I'll do that now. I'll trim a little bit off of each one so they're the same length. So measure them up side by side. One there, one there. There we go. And I'll just keep clipping down until I get to the right height. So it's in case of a little bit of trial and error. I'll measure a little bit, cut a little bit, measure a little bit, cut a little bit. I'll come back after I've used some typhus corrosion to weather this one up, stuck my steps on the side and painted them. Okay, so I've managed to make my handles for my ladder. So I'm going to imagine the steps are under the water. I've grimed it up a little bit. I can always go a little bit more later on. But basically it was the two paper clips, and I drilled a hole in the base and a hole on the side so they actually slot in. So they will actually, hopefully, not break off. And with the drum, like I said, I used a bit of typhus corrosion, riser rust, which is the orange stuff, dry brush over the top once it's gone off, and I painted around the edges of the rust slightly brighter blue to make it look like it's been chipped. Excuse me. So next thing is your resin, your water. Now there's several different products to use. I like this product by Vallejo. Relatively inexpensive, reasonably clear if I want it to be. It is one product. You don't need a hardener or anything with it. It's brilliant stuff. It's as clear as you want it to be. It goes off fairly fast, depending obviously how thick you put it on. And I said before, I'll use multiple thin coats. So I'll do it live on camera. Do plenty of this stuff. This is live on camera, and the nozzle's blocked. Wunderbar. Alright, let's try it out the nozzle then, seeing as my nozzle is blocked. Now hopefully, if you've done this right, there should be no gaps around the sides, so it's nice and tight. The reason I use cork and not a polystyrene or foam core or anything like that is a lot of these products will melt foam. So I know full well cork will not melt. Now I'm just going to let this stuff do its job. Like all liquids, it will find its own equilibrium, its own level in time. I'm going to give it a little hand here. Move it about a little bit. Now of course, once it starts drying, you can always add bubbles to it, or ripples if it's something that's not a still water. Obviously I would like this pool to be still water. And you can always manipulate it with a cocktail stick or something like that if you wish. Just moving it around nice and gently. I'm trying not to introduce any air bubbles. Just tipping it nice and gently. Okay, hopefully it will settle down. Getting a bit around the barrel now. So generally with water effects, the more money you spend, the clearer the product will be. Real cheap resin, like Body Shop resin, because I've used that before in the past for dirty water. It's fine if you want to use it for dirty water. If you want it for clear ponds, things like that, it isn't any good. It really isn't. It will fog up or it will go orangey. I had one before, it went slightly yellow. That's fine if you don't want clear water, that's brilliant. But recommended retail price about $10.99. But considering how much I use it for, I use it on a lot of bases. I use it on a lot of scenery. This would be fine. You know, I could probably do. How much have I used? If this is a 200ml bottle, I probably have used 25 milliliters. You know, it's not a lot, and that will last for a long, long time. As long as I put something in the end and it doesn't block the nozzle. Even with the cap on, it's still blocked up. But I will leave that now for 24 hours and see what it dries like. You know, I have got a slight illusion of depth because I did paint the centre darker and I didn't make it too smooth, i.e. there's a few little bits in there, like I've done a few little bits of stippling, things like that, because I didn't want it to look too uniform, too basic, too plain. And the idea is, once this is fully gone off, then I will put the crate on top. I might even put the crate on top after the next layer, when it's semi gone off, just so it sinks in a little bit, because the palette obviously would float but not be all the way in. Right, hopefully, I said hopefully a lot on this one, after 24 hours this will be fully hardened. Okay, so once the resin is all dry, fully dry, so wait 24 hours, maybe a bit more. I've put multiple layers on this, so I've put 3 layers on this to give it a bit more of an illusion of depth. And on the final layer, I've made some thicker resin. So I've put some resin in the pot to one side, letting it thick up a little bit from the previous layer, and I've gunked it in a few places to make it look like thick gunk. But if you want to use this product on a clear pool, just use it as it is from the bottle. I wanted to make it look gunky and thick in a few places, and I also want to add a little bit of leaves and stuff, just some scum floating on the surface, maybe a little bit of lichen, kind of mossy, whatever kind of stuff. So I'll put that in a corner or two, put some leaves floating in a place, a little bit there or something. So to attach that, I'll just use simple PVA glue. I won't bother using super glue. So I'll put a little bit on my tile to one side. I'll just apply it. I'll start with a little bit of the green mossy stuff, so I want a bit floating on the surface. Bit on the wall or something like that. But you can add whatever you want to the surface of it. You can keep it just as it is, keep it nice and plain. I want to make it look a little bit more realistic. I'm just going to push that in there a little bit. Knock it about, see where it lands. Knock off the excess. So it looks a bit more scummy now. And I did the same in a few little places with the leaves. So, a nice bit of super glue, PVA glue even, I know what I'm talking about, in a few places. Not too much. Just sprinkle them on. So what I'm using here is leaves, not that I've made myself, but stuff you can buy online. So there are several companies online that make lots of flocks, and I just think the leaves are pretty cool. Just have a few leaves stuck onto the surface. No one's going to be cleaning this pool in the Apocalypse, is my thinking, so I'll just push a few on the top. A few more over here. Because if you want to go off a bit quicker, use a bit of super glue. So super glue is perfectly safe with the resin as well. So I'll just prove a point. Just put a little dab there. And I'll put, no, it's not using my finger. Super glue always sticks really well to fingers, doesn't it? So maybe another leaf there. That one's not stuck, so I'll use that one now. Come on, leaf. Just like that. So when everything's dry, I will scum it all up a little bit more and show you the final piece. Also, what I like to do on pretty much every piece of terrain is add a little bit of blood. So the best blood I think around for hobby wise is this from Games Workshop. So you can make your own blood. I like using a bit of PVA, purple and red paint as well. This blood is rarely bright red, so I'll just put a little bit on there. And I'll do a little handprint to make a basic shape of a hand. It doesn't have to be perfect. Bit of a wrist or something there. It's running down into the pool. It's always best to stipple this stuff rather than actually try to paint with it. Don't make it look too perfect. Someone's tried getting away. Move it a little bit around here. Just run it down the edge of the pool. Like so. Now, it's not very much, it won't really make the terrain piece, but it's just a bit of fun. Like I said, I'm still waiting for this stuff to dry. Once it's dry, I'll weather it up so it doesn't look quite so fake. I might put a wash on the leaves to make it look a bit more mouldy rather than dry, because leaves on something wet wouldn't look dry. And over there I'll do the same thing. I'll probably spray it with some watered down PVA and maybe put a wash in it when it's fully gone off. Right. Okay, so here's the finished product. You can make yourself a shopping trolley or whatever you want floating in this. But I decided in the end to paint the steps of the swimming pool rusty, just a bit eye-catching rather than just all this grey and green. And the moss in the end I sprayed with a watered down PVA to make it look wet and to make sure it doesn't chip or reduce the chance of chipping, and added a bit more of the algae around here. I also used an Agrax Earthshade, basically to make the leaves look wetter and darker, because it won't be crispy on the surface, would they? But yeah, you can add whatever you want to this post-apocalyptic pool. It was just an idea for difficult terrain, because I know difficult terrain is hard to make for a tabletop game. So maybe a rubble pile, something like that. But I just wanted something a bit different. And seeing as Outlands is based on a paradise world gone to hell, gone post-apocalyptic, I thought why not. But this is also very good for like a zombie-based game. You know, I'm trying to think of any zombie-based games at the moment. But yeah, just urban style, post-apocalyptic. It will fit in anywhere. And it's just a bit of fun, something to do. You could always make a diorama out of it. But this is how I make my post-apocalyptic swimming pools. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hit the like button and please subscribe. See you next time.